She left me in the middle of our engagement celebration, walked off the stage in her wedding gown, and never looked back. There were over 200 guests there. Her father was holding back tears of pride. My mother had just finished saying how Evelyn was the daughter she'd always prayed for. And I was standing beneath a rain of golden confetti, holding the ring she said she'd always dreamed of. Then she got a call. She answered it backstage, and 5 minutes later, she stepped out, not to walk toward me, but to walk right past me. She held my hand for a moment. She whispered, "I'm sorry." And she left. She left me for Aaron, a man she claimed she despised, a man who had chased her for 5 years like a lost puppy. A man who always stood in the corners of our life together, smiling awkwardly, never interfering, until now. She said Aaron had cancer, that he only had a month to live, that if she married me, the system punishing him would erase him completely. Should have stopped her. I should have grabbed her hand and demanded answers in front of everyone, but I couldn't move. Because the moment Evelyn walked off that stage, my world tilted, literally. The lights above me flickered, my chest tightened. The floor beneath my feet disappeared into darkness, and a sharp voice echoed in my head. Host's mission failed. All memories related to the target will be erased. When I woke up in a hospital room, I didn't remember Evelyn. Not her voice, not her smile, not even her name. Her parents called me son-in-law. I asked them who their daughter was. My mother showed me pictures of our engagement shoot. I didn't recognize the woman clinging to my side. And when Evelyn herself walked in, trembling, crying, calling me Sean like she'd done it 1,000 times before, I stared at her and said the truth. "I'm sorry, I don't know who you are." They told me her name was Evelyn, that we had been together for 7 years, that we'd grown up in the same neighborhood, gone to the same school, walked the same path from childhood to adulthood. They told me we were inseparable, that we were each other's firsts, for everything. First friend, first kiss, first love. But I didn't remember her. Not her laugh, not her scent, not her eyes, not the way she used to call my name like she owned it. All I could see when she stood in front of me was a woman with swollen eyes and trembling fingers, desperate to be remembered. She tried everything. She brought photo albums to my hospital room, videos, voice recordings. She asked if I remembered our trip to the mountains. The time she fell into the river and I jumped in after her. The time we got locked in the library overnight during finals and read poems to pass the time. Nothing came back. "I'm Sean," I said slowly. "I know who I am, but I don't know you." Evelyn cried quietly for the first few days. After that, she begged. "Sean, I only left because Aaron was going to die. I couldn't bear the guilt. I thought I had more time. I thought I could fix it and come back. I didn't think the system would punish you. I didn't know you'd forget me. But those were just words from a stranger. They didn't mean anything. Because while Evelyn was trying to remind me of a love I no longer remembered, someone else walked into my life like she'd never left. Her name was Vicki. She wasn't flashy. She wasn't sobbing on the floor or clutching my hand like it was the last lifeline she had. She just sat next to my bed and peeled an orange. "I'm your friend," she said with a small smile. "Not some long-lost lover. You won't find dramatic memories of me, but you'll find calm." I liked that. Vicki was the daughter of my dad's college roommate. We used to hang out during summer vacations when we were kids. I didn't remember much about her either, but with Vicki, it didn't feel forced. She didn't ask me to remember. She just asked if I was hungry. When she visited, she brought me crossword puzzles, snacks, a Bluetooth speaker. She never mentioned Evelyn. She never asked questions I didn't want to answer. And maybe that's why I found myself looking forward to her visits. Meanwhile, Evelyn became frantic. She started appearing at odd hours. Once, she showed up at 3 a.m. during a thunderstorm, banging on the hospital doors because she knew I hated thunder. "I used to stay with you on nights like these," she pleaded. "Please let me in, just for tonight." My mother refused. Evelyn cried in the hallway for hours. But I didn't get up. I didn't go to her. I just lay there in my bed, listening to the rain, wondering why a woman who claimed to love me had chosen another man on the most important day of our lives. I just wanted to save his life, she kept saying. 7 years, Sean. He waited for me for 7 years. And I wanted to ask her, what about our 7 years? Didn't they matter more? But the truth was, I didn't even remember having them. So I said nothing. And then came the moment everything shifted. One evening, Vicki brought a small notebook. Inside were old poems, ones I apparently wrote in high school. She had kept them all this time. I was always just the friend, she said. But I saw how you looked at her. I saw how you gave her everything, and I never told you, but I hated it. Not because she didn't love you, because she never deserved you. I stared at the notebook, at my own handwriting. It was messy, emotional, alive. Somewhere in those lines I caught a glimpse of myself. The old me, the one Evelyn swore was still buried deep in my heart. But it wasn't her who brought that peace back. It was Vicki. She didn't beg for love. She didn't cry. She just stayed. And in that quiet, something grew. Evelyn noticed. She showed up again, this time not in tears, but in fury. She slapped the notebook from Vicki's hands and shouted at her in the hospital corridor, "You're replacing me. He's mine." I stood between them, calmly, firmly. "I'm not yours, Evelyn. Not anymore." Her face crumbled, her knees buckled, and for the first time, I felt something. Not guilt, not anger, relief. She had finally stopped pretending we were still in love, and I had finally stopped pretending she was the woman I needed. The day I was discharged from the hospital, everyone gathered at the Liu family villa. A celebration had been arranged, half to welcome me home, half to smooth over what had become a fractured engagement. Evelyn's parents stood at the entrance, looking exhausted, like they'd aged 10 years in just a few weeks. My own parents were polite but cold, accepting greetings and gifts without any real warmth. Everyone was pretending things were fine, but nothing was fine. I was seated at the long dining table, picking at my food, while Evelyn sat across from me. Her eyes barely left me the entire time. Every time I raised my glass or spoke a word, she reacted like it meant something, like I was slipping through her fingers by the second. I didn't speak to her once. It wasn't out of cruelty. It was self-preservation. But the calm didn't last. Halfway through the meal, Evelyn suddenly stood. Her chair screeched behind her. She looked straight at me, then turned to face the guests, her voice quivering as she raised it. "I know I made a mistake," she began, "but everything I did was out of kindness. Aaron was going to die. He waited for me for 7 years. I couldn't let him go like that, not without trying to help him." The room fell awkwardly silent. "I thought I had more time," she continued, her voice cracking. "I thought Sean would wait. But the moment I stepped out of the engagement hall, I lost him. And now he says he doesn't remember me." She turned to me. "Even if you've forgotten me, I haven't forgotten you. I still love you, Sean." Everyone looked at me, dozens of eyes waiting for my response. I placed my fork down. "I believe you," I said calmly. "I believe you loved him enough to abandon me on our engagement day." Her face paled. "And I believe," I continued, "that no matter how noble your intentions were, you made a choice. You picked another man when I was standing right there, and now you want to come back and erase the consequences." She took a step closer. "You don't mean that—" "I don't know you," I interrupted. "But even if I did, I wouldn't choose you again." She froze. The silence turned sharp. My words hung in the air like shattered glass. And then, from the other side of the room, someone clapped. It was Aaron. He had just walked in through the side door, thin and pale, wrapped in a long coat. Evelyn turned around in a panic, rushing to his side. "What are you doing here?" she asked, voice laced with panic. "You shouldn't be out." Aaron coughed once and looked up at me, offering a soft, almost amused smile. Just wanted to say thanks to Sean, he said, for giving me what I couldn't get in 7 years. Evelyn looked confused. Told you, Aaron said to her, that if you married him, the system would punish me, so I made sure you wouldn't. She blinked. What? I lied, Aaron said plainly. I don't have cancer. Never did. Gasps spread through the room. Someone dropped a glass? Aaron continued, eyes still locked on me. I was desperate. I used your guilt, your kindness, your pity. But mostly, I knew you'd never choose me unless you lost him. Evelyn stumbled back as if slapped. You lied to me? Her voice was hollow. For 7 years, Aaron said, smiling sadly. I loved you. Or maybe I just loved chasing you. But when I saw you with him, I knew you'd never love me unless I made you feel sorry. So I pretended, and it worked. You came running. Tears rolled down Evelyn's cheeks. You ruined everything. No, I said from my seat. You did? She turned back to me, eyes wild with disbelief. I only left to help him. I thought I could come back. I didn't know I'd lose you. But you did, I said. You lost me the moment you turned your back at the altar. The atmosphere in the room was suffocating. Evelyn stood there, caught between two men, one who never loved her back and one who no longer recognized her. And the worst part? Neither wanted her anymore. Vicki entered quietly. She hadn't been there for the drama. She hadn't needed to be. She simply walked over, placed a thermos on the table beside me, and whispered, You haven't eaten all day. I looked up at her, and I smiled. She smiled back and left without waiting for attention. No spectacle, no demands, just warmth. Evelyn watched it all, frozen. That's when it hit her. She hadn't just lost a man. She'd been replaced by someone who never tried to compete, by someone who never begged, someone who simply stayed. Evelyn collapsed into the nearest chair, whispering something I couldn't hear. Her eyes were empty. Her mouth moved, but no sound came out. And that was the last time I saw her. Cry. I didn't sleep that night. Not because of Evelyn. Not because of Aaron, but because of the silence that came after it all. The kind of silence that presses against your chest like a weight, heavy and invisible. It filled the hallways of the Liu family villa. It filled my own home. It filled my chest. I sat alone in my room, staring out the window. Rain fell in thin lines against the glass, a quiet, steady rhythm that should have been calming, but wasn't. My head ached with the remnants of voices from earlier. Evelyn crying. Aaron confessing. Guests whispering. Glasses clinking, footsteps rushing, chairs scraping the floor. But what lingered most was Evelyn's face. Not the version everyone else saw. Not the one crying or shouting or apologizing. It was the look in her eyes when I said, I wouldn't choose you again. A mix of disbelief and devastation. It haunted me, not because I regretted saying it, but because I meant it, and there was a time when I wouldn't have. That's what made everything hurt. Not remembering Evelyn didn't make the pain disappear. It made it sharper, colder, because my body still reacted to her voice. My pulse still picked up when she stood too close. My hands still twitched when she cried. Muscle memory, maybe. Or a ghost of something I once felt. But my mind had closed. The door, and it wouldn't open again. When Vicki came by that night, she didn't knock. She just sat next to me on the balcony holding a mug of warm tea. Raining again, she said quietly. Always is when something ends, I replied. She glanced at me but didn't speak. She didn't need to. Her presence said more than any comfort could. You think I'm cruel? I asked her after a while. No. Heartless? No. Then what? I think you're tired. That word hit me harder than anything Evelyn had said. Tired. Tired of being pulled between people's guilt and expectations. Tired of being the one who had to be okay so others could fall apart. Tired of remembering a love I couldn't feel and expected to mourn it anyway. Tired of not being allowed to be angry. I pressed my palms into my face and exhaled. Maybe I'm not who I used to be. You're not, Vicki said softly. You're better. How would you know? Because I've known you all along, not through fairy tale promises or photo albums, just through real things, small things, honest things. That made me quiet. Outside, the thunder cracked. I flinched slightly. Same old reflex. You're still afraid of storms, Vicki said with a small smile. Apparently. Evelyn used to come over and hold your hand when it stormed, she added, her voice calm, matter of fact. I know. Do you miss her? That question echoed in my head. Do I miss a woman I don't remember? Do I miss what we had, even if I can't feel it anymore? Do I miss the idea of her, or just the man I used to be when I was with her? I think I miss who I was before she left, I said. Then maybe you're mourning yourself, not her. That landed deeper than expected, because it was true. She didn't just leave me at that celebration. She took a version of me with her, the version that waited, that believed love could survive anything, that would have forgiven her if she'd come back just a little sooner. But that version of me was gone. And now, all that was left was the man she couldn't recognize anymore. A man who could stare at her tears and feel nothing. Maybe it wasn't fair. Maybe it made me cold. But it also made me free. I turned to Vicki. Do you think Evelyn loved me? I think she did, she said honestly. In her own way, but not in a way that was enough for you. I nodded. And Aaron? She used him, she said. Not on purpose, but because she didn't know what else to do. And you? Vicki looked at me, then looked away. Her voice barely rose above a whisper. I've always loved you in silence, and I was okay with that, because I never needed to be the main character in your story. I just wanted to be someone who never hurt you. That nearly broke me. Because all my life I'd looked for grand declarations. I'd chased promises. I'd held on to people who sparkled louder than they loved. And now, here was someone who sat through my silences, through my storms, through my memory loss, and never asked for anything back. Vicki stood to leave, setting the empty mug down. I'll go, she said. I know you need space. I caught her hand before she could step away. You're not just background, Vic. She froze. Not anymore. Her eyes filled with something that looked like hope and fear all at once. But she didn't say anything. She just nodded once and left, and I sat alone again. Not grieving Evelyn, not angry at Aaron, just feeling tired, and for the first time, finally ready to let it all go. It happened 3 days later. I was on the university campus with Vicki. The school had invited us both to a post-celebration alumni dinner, some formal excuse to connect, shake hands, take photos, and wear tailored suits that didn't quite feel like us. Vicki was dressed simply, black skirt, soft blouse, subtle earrings that glimmered when she laughed. And she laughed often around me now. We were walking past the old library when I got the call. It was Judy, Evelyn's younger cousin. Her voice was shaking. Sean, you need to come now. It's Evelyn. She's at the hospital. I stopped mid-step. My body stiffened before my mind caught up. What happened? She crashed her car, Judy said. She was drunk, alone. They don't know if she did it on purpose. My stomach dropped. I hung up before Vicki could ask and ran. The hospital smelled like bleach and heartbreak. Evelyn's mother was crying in the hallway. Her father stood silently, his hand pressed against the glass of the ICU, unmoving. Like, if he just held still long enough, she'd wake up and everything would go back to how it was. But it wouldn't. Not this time. I walked in. She looked small, smaller than I remembered. Tubes in her arm, a bandage over her forehead, bruises on her cheekbone. Her eyes were shut. Her chest rose and fell slowly under the thin white blanket. The nurse nodded, letting me sit alone beside her. I didn't speak. What could I possibly say? Evelyn had driven herself into this. She'd spiraled from rejection, from humiliation, from a heartbreak that she couldn't rewrite. Maybe she thought crashing the car would erase the pain. Or maybe she thought it would bring me running, and it had. But I didn't feel the way I was supposed to. I wasn't panicked. I wasn't shattered. I wasn't broken at the sight of her. I was just sad. Sad that it had come to this. Sad that she had built her world around the idea of us and then watched it collapse. Sad that she couldn't accept I'd moved on. And still, even in this room of beeping machines and antiseptic air, I couldn't forget the last thing she said to me before she drove off. "You'll regret this, Sean. I'll make sure you do." I hadn't, and maybe that was the real reason she broke. The door creaked open behind me. I turned, expecting a nurse. It was Aaron. He looked different. His clothes were clean, his posture straight, his eyes oddly steady. He didn't look like a man who had faked cancer, manipulated a woman, and shattered a wedding. He looked like someone who had already mourned something and moved on. "She asked for you before she passed out," he said. I said nothing. "She still thought you'd forgive her." I stood slowly. "Why are you here?" "Because I'm the one who ruined her," Aaron replied, voice calm. "But you're the one she'll never stop waiting for." He looked down at her, a trace of guilt flickering in his expression. "I thought getting her was the goal," he said. "Now I realize I never had her, not really." I moved past him. "Some things, once broken, don't go back." "She never needed you to go back," he murmured. "She needed you to stay." I walked out. I didn't owe her love. I didn't owe her forgiveness. All I could offer now was silence. It wasn't the hospital visit. It wasn't Aaron's quiet confession or Evelyn's silent body beneath white sheets that became the climax of our story. It came 2 weeks later, when I least expected it. I had finally started breathing again. Vicki and I were going out more. Quiet lunches, long walks. She didn't pressure me, didn't define what we were, but we both knew something was forming, real, slow, and steady. It was strange how comfort could feel more powerful than passion when you'd been through a storm. Then came the alumni gala, a formal affair at the old university auditorium, hosted for major donors, award winners, and overachievers who had something to show. Evelyn was one of the honored speakers. When I first saw her name on the invitation list, I wanted to skip the event entirely. But Vicki insisted we go. Not because she wanted to make a scene, but because, as she said, you can't keep running from someone you've already left behind. The moment we entered the auditorium, cameras flashed. Murmurs filled the air. I could feel eyes shifting toward us, not because of Vicki's soft elegance or my tailored suit, but because they remembered. Everyone remembered. The celebration that became a scandal, the woman who left and the man who forgot, and then she arrived, Evelyn. She wore a silver gown, floor-length, simple, not the dramatic gowns she used to love. Her hair was pulled back, her makeup was light. She looked human. Not like the girl who stood under confetti lights once promising forever. Our eyes met, and I felt nothing. That was the moment I realized I was finally free. But she wasn't. Her gaze lingered too long. She looked at Vicki, then at our joined hands. Her jaw clenched. But she didn't approach, not yet. The gala went on. Speeches, applause, awards. I didn't really listen. My mind was elsewhere. I could feel the confrontation coming, like thunder far off in the distance. I didn't want a scene, but I knew Evelyn wouldn't leave without one. And then came the dance. As the orchestra played, alumni and their partners moved to the floor. Vicki and I held back at first, but eventually I offered her my hand, and she smiled, placing hers in mine. We swayed gently, just a slow rhythm beneath the lights. I wasn't thinking of Evelyn. I wasn't thinking of the past. I was just there, in the moment, with someone who had never betrayed me. Then Evelyn appeared. She stepped onto the floor, alone, no partner, walking straight toward us. "Sean," she said, stopping just a few feet away. Her voice was steady, but her eyes were already glassy. Vicki looked at me, then stepped back without a word. She didn't need to be told. She knew. I turned toward Evelyn. "What do you want?" I asked quietly. She took a breath, clearly rehearsed. "Just one dance." "No. Please." The music faded. The people around us slowed. All eyes were on us now. It was déjà vu, the center of attention again. But this time I wasn't frozen. I was anchored. "You don't owe me a lifetime," she said. "I know that. I ruined everything. I destroyed it all. But please, just this once. Just a dance." The Sean she once loved might have agreed, but I wasn't him anymore. "No," I said again. "You don't get to beg for moments now. You had years." Her lip trembled. "I loved you. You left me. I made a mistake." "No," I replied. "You made a choice. You thought I'd be there when you came back. You thought love would wait like it always had, but love isn't your safety net. It's not a backup plan. You chose to walk away, Evelyn, and you lost me." A murmur rippled through the crowd. She looked around, realizing people were listening, watching, whispering. "I didn't mean for it to happen like that," she whispered. "I believe you." She paused, surprised. "But your intentions don't erase the damage. They don't fix the way I waited at that altar, heart pounding, pride crumbling, while you whispered to another man behind a curtain. You don't get to walk in now and expect applause for regret." Her hand reached toward me. I stepped back. She stopped breathing for a second. "I don't hate you," I added. "But I don't remember you. And even if I did, I still wouldn't choose you." Tears fell silently down her cheeks. The orchestra began to play again. Vicki stepped forward, quiet, graceful. She didn't gloat. She didn't smirk. She just slipped her hand into mine again, like it was where it had always belonged. Evelyn turned away, her shoulders shaking. She walked off the dance floor. No one followed her. Not Aaron, not her friends, not even Judy. She was finally alone. Later that night, I saw a social media post from her. Just a single sentence. "It's terrifying when the man who once loved you more than anything looks at you like you're nothing." And underneath, a photo of us from years ago, back when smiles were easy and futures were naively promised. Didn't feel guilt, I didn't feel vindication, I just felt peace. I closed the app and looked at Vicki. "Thank you," I said. "For what?" "For never leaving," she smiled, leaning her head on my shoulder. "You never needed to be remembered," I whispered. "You just needed to be seen." And I saw her. Finally. It didn't end at the gala. The world never lets heartbreak fade quietly, especially not when pride and legacy are involved. A week after the gala, news broke that Evelyn had been removed from her family's board of directors. The Lou Group had launched an internal audit, uncovering irregularities in her overseas charity donations, traced back to a certain account she'd used to help Aaron during his staged illness. The irony? Aaron wasn't the one who exposed it. It was Evelyn herself. She'd left a trail so obvious, even a half-interested auditor could find it. She had wired over 800,000 yuan in less than 3 months. Money that didn't belong to her. Money she had justified spending because, in her mind, she was saving a man's life. But she wasn't saving anyone. She was running from the guilt of what she did to me. The board acted quickly. Her father tried to defend her, but there were limits. The Liu family couldn't risk its name over one daughter's meltdown. She was suspended, and then quietly cut off. Evelyn disappeared. No posts, no photos, no stories, nothing. Until I saw her again, by accident. It was 2 months later, in the middle of winter. I was walking near the financial district with Vicki, on our way to a friend's engagement party. We stopped by a small, warm cafe to escape the wind. She was behind the counter, hair tied in a loose bun, no makeup, apron over a cheap fleece. She didn't see us at first. She was too focused on steaming milk, her hands trembling slightly as the machine hissed. Vicki noticed before I did. Her fingers tightened gently around mine. I looked up, and there she was, Evelyn, the once polished, once unreachable Evelyn Liu, working a part-time job in a place where no one called her Miss Liu. She looked up, she froze. Her lips parted slightly, but no sound came out. She was thinner, pale. Her face was bare, honest, stripped of anything glamorous.
And for the first time, I saw her not as the woman who left me, but as the woman who had been left behind, by her choices, her pride, her illusions. She stepped around the counter slowly, as if every step took effort. She didn't smile. She
didn't cry. She didn't beg. She just looked at me and said, "You're happy now." I didn't answer. Because yes, I was. Not in the grand cinematic sense. Not in the fairy tale ending kind of way. But in the real way. The kind that grows from scars, not fantasies. The kind that chooses peace over passion. Vicki stood beside me. Solid, unmoving. Evelyn looked at her, then back at me. "Do you still not remember anything?" she asked quietly. I shook my head. "No, and I don't want to." She smiled bitterly. "Then forgetting me was the best revenge." "No," I replied. "Living well was." There was nothing left to say. We left the cafe. I didn't look back, but I know she did. 3 weeks later, I received a package at my office. Inside was a single photograph. It was of us, Evelyn and me, taken on our college graduation day. I was laughing, carefree. She was holding onto my arm tightly like the world couldn't move her if I was beside her. On the back, she had written in neat handwriting, "I didn't lose you the day you forgot me. I lost you the day I made you wait." I folded the photo once, then again, and dropped it into the shredder without a second thought. Closure isn't found in revenge. It's found in not needing it anymore. Still, I made one final call. To a contact I had at a venture fund. The same fund that had once offered Evelyn an executive role years ago, a position she turned down because she was meant for more. I asked them to hire her, quietly. No press, no titles, no luxuries, just a desk and a second chance. I didn't. Do it for her. I did it because I never wanted to hear the excuse that she couldn't rebuild her life, and she never did contact me again. As for Aaron, he passed his civil exam and returned to his hometown. We never spoke again. But I saw a news article once. He'd helped build a library in his village, donated under a pseudonym. Maybe guilt builds better futures than ambition. And Vicki? She never left. A year later, we were married in a small ceremony by the lake. No grand ballroom, no confetti, just us, a few close friends, and the quiet rustling of trees. She walked toward me without hesitation. She stayed beside me without demands, and she built a life with me without needing to be remembered, only loved. That night, as we stood under a sky full of stars, she whispered, "Do you still think forgetting was your punishment?" I kissed her forehead. "No," I said. "It was my freedom." And Evelyn? She never showed up, not at the wedding, not in our lives, not in my thoughts, because you only mourn what you miss, and I didn't miss her. I only remembered how not remembering her gave me everything I was meant to have.